Welcome, everyone, to our special four-part webinar series in recognition of Menopause Awareness Month. We're so proud to bring this important conversation to life through a partnership with Alloy Health, a leader in evidence-based menopause care and telehealth solutions, and Medovia, the U.S. workplace leader in menopause and midlife health. Throughout the series, we've been breaking down myths, sharing the latest science, and highlighting real experiences of women navigating perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. And our goal is simple: to replace silence with knowledge, empower women to advocate for themselves, and give organizations the tools they need to build supportive cultures. Together, Alloy and Medovia are working to change the way menopause and, frankly, this stage of life is understood in healthcare, in the workplace, and in society. So thank you, everyone, for joining us as we open the door to honest, informed, and hopeful conversations. Today, we're addressing lifestyle longevity and the future of menopause support, and we're joined today by Dr. Taylor Hahn. Dr. Hahn is a board-certified OBGYN and certified menopause practitioner through the Menopause Society. She's an active member of ISWISH, the International Society for Study of Women's Sexual Health, and the International Society for Sexual Medicine, and has also received additional training through the Obesity Medicine Association. As a subscribing physician for Alloy Health, Dr. Hahn is passionate about education of both patients and clinicians in regards to women's health and midlife care, and strongly believes that fostering a strong, supportive community is vital to empowering women in all aspects of life. We've been talking all month about awareness, but today we're going beyond that. This session is really about how women can thrive in midlife and beyond, in health, in work, and in life. Dr. Hahn, welcome. We're so thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor.
Absolutely. I was thinking about this session before we hopped on and just about my own personal experience. It's hard to not put yourself in the shoes of patients or employees. And thinking about the fact that women, we can experience 34 plus symptoms of menopause and oftentimes at the same time. Right? They're not in isolation, and it can be really, really hard. And that brought up the first question that I'd like to ask you to kick it off. When someone comes to you and says, what can I do to feel better? I'm miserable. What can I do? Where do you start with that patient? Do you start with nutrition? Do you start with sleep, exercise, or something entirely different? Where's the conversation start?
I I like to get a sense overall of just how my patients have adapted in their everyday life. So I actually just like to get a sense of like what's your like normal day like? Are you working? Are you also kind of the primary caretaker for your children? Are you primary caretaker for other family members? What's that stress level like? What have you tried previously? I think all those questions, rather than like first diving in and saying, "Oh, I need to diagnose you with something. I need to get all of these labs," and labs and evaluation, all of that comes down the road. But I think getting a sense for a patient as to what they have tried, what is sort of affecting their daily life, you can learn so much more about a patient just by asking those questions first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And most doctors only have 15 minutes.
Yes.
Women get frustrated because they don't get answers when they go in to talk to their doctor. How should they prepare to be able to talk to their doctor so that you can begin looking at ways in which you can help them?
I think that's a really excellent point, and one that in my own practice we've tried to sort of tackle so that we can make the most out of patients' time with us, even though we do have a little bit of extended time to spend with our patients. I think first is really writing out a list of what is kind of your primary issues that you think are sort of top of your list of what you want to address. And then, but still kind of list out what you've been experiencing overall. And then I know that there's kind of some lists out there floating around of questions that you can ask of your provider. I think one of the top questions that I would encourage you to ask is, do you feel comfortable managing menopause, perimenopause, some of the symptoms that I'm going through? I don't think that that is a question that should be ever off the table, because if that provider is comfortable, they're going to be confident in the care that they're giving you. I think that it shouldn't be taboo for providers to be able to say, you know what, I am not the best person for you to have that conversation, but I know who is. And to be able to sort of build that community network, we as physicians and as just healthcare providers in general, we can't be everything to everybody, right? And I think it's okay for us to say, I'm not the expert, but I want to get you the help that you need. And so I think that is one of the most important questions to ask, because you don't want to go through this whole conversation only to have your concerns not be addressed or sort of be dismissed. And then you are left thinking, okay, are they not important enough? Or, am I really kind of making this up in my mind? So you want those to be addressed.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because we often recommend to employers and employees as part of the prep for the appointment. When you call the receptionist, you call the scheduler to ask who in your office specializes in menopause or hormone health. But I don't think we've taken that one step further to say, hey, include this in your questions for your healthcare practitioner as well. Ask, right? And that might feel a little bit bold for some people. I think, if I think about myself, and I'm 57 years old, I was brought up, never to question healthcare providers. You take it at face value. You don't question their authority, I guess, if we want to call it that, for lack of a better way of saying that. So I think here we're just giving permission, right? You
Yes,
have permission to ask your healthcare provider if they're comfortable managing your menopause. Everyone, right? Take a
absolutely.
moment
And
there.
I think vice versa, where you're encouraging them to really um avoid having sort of a very poor experience with the healthcare system, right? Like we
Mhm.
want to, it oftentimes takes 4 to 6 months to get in to see someone.
Right.
So why would you want to waste that entire waiting time only to get to an appointment where they say, you know what, I actually can't help you. So as far as, I love that you have that encouragement to ask that up front, like, hey, do you have someone who's interested in this, or who really feels comfortable managing this? But I don't think that it should ever. I think we're entering a time of healthcare where we're partnering with patients a lot more than just telling them what to do. And that taking at face value, I think, can sometimes be detrimental to patient care too.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite doctors have referred me to people that knew more about the situation than what they knew. And it
Yes.
saves so much time. And I just, I really, really appreciate that someone that wants to help me like that. But the statistic, like women see between 7 to 9 doctors to try and find the right person, something around that. But a lot of doctors trying to find the right person that can help them. And they're
Yes.
already stretched too thin on everything else. So it's just one more task to add on to that list. Like, they're dealing with all of their symptoms and probably their children and probably their parents. And how do you help them make sustainable changes when they're already stretched too thin by everything else going on? You've spent the
Mhm.
time to get to know what's going on with them. How do you help them think about actionable steps that they can take given everything else that's going on in their life?
I think that the establishing a good, strong relationship with your provider is so important. I think we think of healthcare almost in small boxes, to where it's like, okay, I have to get everything done in this
Yeah.
one visit and everything covered in this one visit. I oftentimes will set the stage for patients that, hey, I'm not going to be able to to cure everything in this one visit. We really need good quality follow-up. And that oftentimes is in the form of visits, but oftentimes that's in the form of just check-ins, like
Mhm.
I want you to be able to check in with me and say, hey, I just want to update you. This is what I'm feeling. I've had a couple of weird things happen. Is this normal? It shouldn't be isolated in a box to where it's like, well, I'm not going to talk to you about that. Talk to me about it at your visit. um,
Mhm.
and so I think just encouraging patients to know that it's very much a journey, and everything's not going to get fixed in one visit. So just building that relationship with a provider that you trust is so, so important.
I also love that you're setting an expectation too, because I would go in and be like, okay, you understand this, so tell me, what should I do? And I'm in and out, and I'll see you in a year, right? And
Yes.
I've found that the best doctors and the best treatments, it takes time, which
Yeah.
is
Yes.
also hard when you don't have any, but
Right.
also important for that person to get to know you. So I appreciate that you set the expectation, like we can kind of deal with a few things today and not all of it. So let's just make sure we're in touch. And that's the kind of doctor you want to find, right? That's the one that
Yeah.
who wants to hear from me later and cares. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I
Yeah.
have really found that it's been such a profound change in the dynamic with with my patients and me, just by saying, I want to hear from you. I want you to check in. I want to make sure that what we're doing for you is the right plan, and not waste 6 months. And then you come back and you say, actually, I didn't do any of that because the number one thing is that I hear is I went to go pick up the medication and they didn't have it.
Mm.
And then I didn't call, I didn't follow up, because the healthcare system has sort of set up, again, that feeling of isolation, and that, oh, I should be able to figure this out on my own and I don't want to bother them. But that's not how good quality preventative healthcare should function, and that's not how you should function with your relationship with someone who is taking care of one of the most important aspects of you, right? Your health.
Mhm.
It's so funny that you mentioned that because I did just that and I'm in the menopause space. So, I mean, I know better, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I am a huge advocate for my own health and I'm educated and knowledgeable and I still questioned sending an email to my doctor. I had a question about a new medication and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to bother her." Right.
Yes.
So that really goes way back. And we're
Yes.
really changing that mindset when we give permission, again, giving permission to
Yes.
communicate with your healthcare provider. It's okay.
Yep. And it's deeply ingrained because,
Mhm.
the way that my current practice is set up and the way that Alloy is set up as well, is that we have that open line of communication, that messaging, the easy phone calls. Like it's so easy for me now to be able to message securely with my patients, just to say, hey, I went ahead and updated that, or I sent in that new prescription that you needed, rather than waiting 3 to 5 days down the road, because your inbox is full and you're just so overwhelmed as a provider, to do that. Like it's just much more of a comfortable and trusting relationship, rather than I'm in this building that is like secure and you cannot reach me, you cannot talk to me.
Right.
And obviously, you can't do that when you're seeing a lot of patients throughout the day. But I think it's so much nicer to be able to build that relationship where patients feel comfortable, bringing their concerns to you.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
great. I want to dive into conversation about lifestyle medicine, and
Yes.
we haven't really had an opportunity to talk to other providers with Alloy about lifestyle medicine. We talked a lot about hormone therapy, the myths, and we debunked some of those myths and misunderstandings. And we know that hormone therapy is important. We know that it's the first line of recommendation from the Menopause Society, but there are people that either don't want to take it, can't take it, or they are taking it. And as we mentioned earlier, lifestyle medicine is
Hmm.
so critically important as well. So I'm wondering if you could just share with listeners one lifestyle change that delivers the biggest impact, what would it be?
Sleep. Number one,
Number one.
especially, sleep gets completely disrupted in menopause for so many patients. And it's the small disruptions. It's not the like, oh my gosh, I have full on insomnia. I haven't had a good night's sleep in, weeks to months. It's the, oh, well, that I think that was just related to this, but I got 4 hours of sleep here and I got 6 hours of sleep there. All of those things add up. And the sleep component, it encourages inflammation. It encourages fatigue overall, which then is sort of a vicious cycle for
Mhm.
not only your movement throughout the day, but also your nutrition. And it affects mood. It absolutely can affect, how well you're functioning just at a baseline level. So it's probably one of the top things that I sort of start the conversation with patients on,
Mhm.
especially if they're looking more to, non-hormonal ways to look at their
Yeah.
symptoms.
Is
Yeah.
there a recommended
Mhm.
number of hours of sleep that we should be getting in midlife?
Typically, the general recommendation is 7 to 8 hours at baseline.
Okay.
Now, I can't even tell you the last time that I got like a full 8 to 10 hours of sleep, but even more than 8 hours is actually is much more reasonable as far as really seeing that difference. What I talk to patients about a lot is overall sleep hygiene. I mean, we live in the era of screens, right?
Yeah.
And so that's probably one of the number one things that I talk to patients about is just what's your nighttime hygiene routine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you watching TV in the bedroom as you're trying to fall asleep? Do you have a lot of screens on and a lot of lights on? Do you scroll through your phone or an iPad or something like that, within the last couple of hours before you're going to bed? I can tell you that, I give that recommendation. And then a lot of times I'm doing that anyways because
Yeah.
I have small kids. And that a lot of times is the only time I can get a little bit of like non work, but things accomplished
Hmm.
whenever they're put to bed. So I totally get it. It's again more about consistency and making those changes rather than, oh my gosh, I didn't do it for 3 days in a row, so I'm just gonna sort of stop and give up.
Yeah.
It's more so about long term, in terms of the longevity of that habit.
And
That's
I
great.
don't think people really understand how sleep's important, but why? I mean, it
Yeah.
fixes so many things and helps prepare your body for the next day in so many ways. I don't think we've paid attention to why it's important and what it does for you. You want to
Yes.
talk about that real briefly?
It's our primary repair time. I mean, if you think about it, we do so much damage to all of our body cells throughout the day, whether that is because of actual physical elements and being outside and experiencing actual like weather elements, or whether that is stress to the body with new deadlines and new assignments and all of that. We do so much damage and encourage so much inflammation, as far as the types of nutrition that we have throughout the day, the aspects of just daily life in our society now, as far as driving, and social media, and just there's so many other outside elements that affect us now, that sleep is our time to actually like calm the body, help
Mhm.
repair, And if you are only doing that repair process for 2-3 hours of like actual good quality sleep a night, that repair process is not happening.
Yeah.
It's so important. And I'm thinking about just recent conversations with some women that we're talking about wine. I just like to drink some wine at night to
Mhm.
relax. I'm stressed out. We are in this midlife stage where we might still be caring for kids. We might be caring for adults. We
Mhm.
might have a high impact stress job as well. We might not be sleeping because of our hormone fluctuations or
Yes.
decline. So there's a lot in that recipe. So a glass of wine sounds great to relax. But we
Yes.
know that alcohol affects our sleep. Can you just touch on that for a moment as well?
Yes. I will first off say I've been guilty of it
Oh, me
previously.
too.
So
Yeah.
yep. So
Yeah.
this is not like a, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, you absolutely shouldn't be doing this. And if you are, you're terrible kind of thing. That's not at all. We all kind of have that like a similar struggle and a
Yeah.
similar experience. Alcohol overall really affects the quality of sleep. So you are not going to have nearly as many hours of quality sleep. You may not get into that good, deep REM sleep as frequently. And then on top of that, it really affects, especially for my patients who are going through perimenopause and menopause, that temperature regulation.
Mm,
It really affects that. So I see a drastic difference in hot flushes, night
mm,
sweats when I don't have alcohol the night
mhm,
before.
mhm.
So it makes a huge difference. And you don't necessarily notice it. It's not something that just unless you maybe are on hormone therapy and have like not had a hot flash in a while and then
Right.
you experience that. Um, a lot of times we sort of excuse it into other things. And so it's not necessarily it's very subtle. It doesn't necessarily hit you all at once.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, sleep's tough, but so the next symptom that people often complain about is brain fog and
Mm.
mood changes, or I talk about them. Maybe it's me that's talking about them. But can you talk about what's actually happening to cause that, and what are some of the ways that women can protect their brain at midlife? Like, is it exercise? Is it nutrition? Is it sleep? Like, what is it? What's happening, and what can I do about it?
I think it's all of the above. Like, it is a very brain fog, I would say, is probably one of the most complex of the primary symptoms of menopause, because there's so much still that we don't know about what what is the actual primary cause. And we really think that it's a mix of all of those factors.
Mm,
Nutrition plays a huge role in that. Again, I think I talk about this on every single webinar or anything that I do, but inflammation is such a huge component. And I think that we don't look as much at nutrition components of causing inflammation as we do as to like outside stress sources and things like that. So nutrition component, all of the processed foods that we put in our body, we may say, oh, I have a generally overall good diet, but a lot of the components that we're putting into our body are not those, whole foods. They're not. They're things that have been packaged and processed, and we don't necessarily look at the packaging or the label before we put it in our bodies. So
mhm,
that's not to say that you can't ever have those, but it's more so again the consistency of those components and adding those. I think exercise in general, again, sort of a vicious cycle, because if you are
mhm,
not getting sleep and fatigued throughout the entire day, that is not motivation to get any kind of exercise in, right? What I oftentimes will talk to my patients about is just movement. It's
mm.
not about exercise. It's not about getting a new gym membership. It is about, I don't know if you guys have the Apple Watch, but I still have the reminders,
Right.
even though I sometimes ignore
Hmm.
them, of like, you haven't stood in an
Yes.
entire hour. Like, you
Hmm.
need to just stand up, stretch. and that is movement. So I know a lot of patients get discouraged because they think, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I need to like start doing resistance training, but what does that mean? I need to start lifting weights, but I don't have time to join the gym. And a lot of the conversation that I have in terms of movement with my patients is, what can you do in a room that's like a 6 by 6 foot room?
Mm,
You can do a full workout, only
yeah.
body weight in just that size of room.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of times about getting really having those options of creativity. And you can do repetitive movements. It doesn't have to be this like amazing workout that you've come up with
Hmm.
or that you saw on YouTube. It is just about movement itself.
Yeah, I love that. I teach yoga because I love it keeps me
I
doing
love
yoga
that.
just once a
Yes.
week, but it's the I call it the Keurig movement moments. Like,
Yes.
what can I do in these 2 minutes while my Keurig coffee is brewing,
Oh,
right?
I love that.
They add up. It's your habit stacking, right? But
Yes.
if you think about it that way, right? I'm brewing my coffee. What can I do? Right? I can
You do
Yes.
jump.
push-ups on
I
the
can jump.
stairs,
I can do
right?
push-ups off the counter. I can,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Yes.
just those little things. We can do
Yep.
Balance.
balance, right? I can stand on one leg. I can
Yep.
do one leg
Yes.
squats, right? And
Exactly.
you
I
look
talk about
ridiculous, but
air
who
squats
cares?
while you're brushing your teeth. Like
Mm-hmm.
you
Yes.
can do so much movement wise.
Yeah.
I actually just had this conversation with a colleague. I said, I do like counter push-ups while I'm
Yes.
waiting for my shower to warm up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's easy, small things like that, that you just kind of need that sort of boost or trigger to say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it happen. And I think that's kind of the toughest part, is just getting past the overwhelm of, I
Yeah.
need to do a full workout and do it in workout clothes. That's probably my
Mm,
other biggest thing, is that I tell patients, you do not ever have to step foot out of your pajamas if you don't want
mm-hmm.
to, and you can still get a full workout
Yeah.
in.
I
True.
love that. And it doesn't cost anything, right? Your body weight
Exactly.
doesn't cost anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. We've talked about nutrition, or you've mentioned nutrition often in this conversation. And I think that that can be a really confusing topic for women that are going through menopause as well, because there's so much information out there. Eat X amount of protein, or the Mediterranean
Hmm.
diet is better, or intermittent fasting is good, or it's not good. Can you
Hmm.
talk in general terms what good nutrition, and I don't like to use the word good or bad, but healthy nutrition looks like at
Hmm.
this stage of life?
Yes. It is a very, it can be a very touchy topic for a lot of patients, because there's so much stigma related to it.
Mhm.
Most of my patients have tried one, two, three, or four different dietary patterns. What I tend to focus on is sort of what the Obesity Medicine Association also focuses on, which is sort of that plant forward dietary approach. And again, we've kind of talked about it in other aspects. It's more the consistency portion. So, what I talk to patients about, because they ask me, well, do you think intermittent fasting would be good for me?
Mhm.
And we go through their day and what their day looks like. And I will tell patients, like, based on what you're telling me and the minimal times you have to actually get good nutrition in and what you're maybe going to do consistently, I don't think that intermittent fasting is a good option for you or a smart option for you if
Yeah.
we're trying to really focus on actually getting in the nutrition.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my patients are night shift workers, and
Mm,
maybe they have way different times that they're eating compared to their family, and they
yeah.
still want to have that family aspect. So it's taking all those things into consideration, but I would say consistency is the biggest emphasis that I place on it. And then also that plant forward thinking. Not everyone is interested in eating a Mediterranean diet. Not everybody likes fish or can eat
Mhm.
fish, right? So really trying to take those components. It's why it's a very nutrition is a very personalized process for each of my patients, because what works for you is not going to work for somebody else.
Mhm.
And for me, it's more about figuring out, taking into consideration your lab evaluation too, and saying,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
this type of diet may work well for you short term, but probably not going to be the healthiest for you long term. So what do you think about that? Do you think that you want to try it and we can always readjust, or do you want to start on something that is sort of for the long haul? And so it's really, it's such a personalized conversation for each patient. And that's why I would never say a blanket statement like, intermittent fasting is the way to go, or Mediterranean diet works for absolutely everyone. Because in reality, it's all about having that conversation about what do we think is going to work best for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to switch gears. Because we could talk about nutrition. I could talk about nutrition for the whole, days. But
Yeah.
research has shown that talking about menopause and your symptoms helps to lower the symptoms. And whether that's in community or whether that's in therapy. And the Menopause Society says that cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the great ways to help with menopause symptoms, but a lot of doctors are not talking about that. Can you kind of talk about the sort of the therapy aspect of it, the community aspect of it, how that helps support the lifestyle that you're trying to create during this time? Because I think that it might be more scary to figure out cognitive behavioral therapy than it is to figure out hormone replacement therapy, because there's a stigma there too, as you're looking at the mental health issues around this time. And I just would love to hear about that, because growing research says that menopause and mental health have a very close connection. And how can people find that sort of emotional well-being during this time?
I love that you brought that up as a point, because I think that for the most part, a lot of us as healthcare providers would probably tell you that we got very little, if any, training on what cognitive behavioral therapy is and how to best implement that, even if it's in small portions for your patients. I think we generally, especially those of us who have sort of taken on the interest in menopause and giving good menopause care, I think we generally incorporate some of those aspects into our care plan. It's really about what is motivating a patient to change, and then helping them craft a plan that is going to long term help to implement that change, right? So that might involve medications, that might involve just like therapy and counseling, and I want to say that that's not. I wish that it wasn't such a taboo thing to talk about, because mental health and mood are such a huge component of perimenopause and menopause. I mean, and it's what I try to reiterate to my patients is that it's biological. It is hormonal. It's not just that you're, being rude or, oh, she's just a woman kind of thing. I hate that conversation, because it really is a biological fluctuation that contributes to a lot of those symptoms. I think it's really interesting that a lot of providers are 100% willing to hand out anti-anxiety medications and antidepressants for symptoms that a lot of times are related to menopause, but we have this taboo discussion of, well, I don't think you're a candidate for hormone therapy, and here's why, even for patients who are excellent candidates. So I think it's just really having that conversation is so important, and making it so that it's not I think this is just your mood conversation, but looking at it in terms of whole health.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why women need to be informed when they go in of, here's the things that I know about menopause. Here's what I'm thinking I want to do. There are some solutions, and I want to get your thoughts, because this is what I want, right? Own your body and own your agency to go figure out what the right things are. So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
That's a good starting point. right? I mean,
Yes.
we don't know what we want or what we need. We
Yeah.
haven't given it much thought. Caring for others and always putting others first. So Kim, you're so good at sliding that in every single conversation that we have because it is important to ask yourself, what do I want and what do I need, and
Yeah.
what am I going to go in asking for, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
And I think sometimes the what do I want question, the answer a lot of times is just, I just want to feel better. I just want
mm-hmm,
to feel like myself again.
mm-hmm,
And again, that's a tall order to do in one visit, right?
mm-hmm,
But I think just coming in and having that curiosity is so important. I never shy away from my patients who come in and say, "Well, I Googled," or "This is what I've seen on social media."
mm-hmm,
I welcome those because that's how our society gets a lot of our
mm-hmm,
health information now.
right.
That's a lot of times why we're on social media trying to give
That's
good
right.
quality education and information for patients. But I welcome that because I'm very comfortable in having those conversations and trying to sort of bust the myths versus giving them validation that, hey, that was a really great question to ask. And here is how we can address that too.
Yeah.
So good.
So good.
Can I ask you, as I'm thinking about the care that you give, and honestly, I'm sitting here thinking, gosh, I'd love to have you as my doctor.
Oh,
But really, truly, I love your approach, and I don't think that all women have access to it. I know they don't have access, and there's definitely inequity in the healthcare space, especially the menopause space. And I'm wondering if you could give your opinion on how we might close the gaps in menopausal care for women who can't afford that specialized treatment. Or how do women even know that help exists?
I actually think that a lot of our sort of big experts in this space are doing a really great job of just getting the word out, getting that education out. I might be a bit of an optimist, but I do think that social media is a great way to get those little sound bites of just information that you may not have thought about that patients can then take to the one visit that they get a
Hmm.
year or every 6 months kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love that we are encouraging um, healthcare providers outside of only women's health
Hmm.
to take an interest and to really involve themselves and invest themselves into this care. I tend to be somebody who says that anybody who is taking care of women in any capacity should
Hmm.
know this.
Hmm.
They should feel comfortable and understand the process of menopause and what's happening outside of, oh, your hormones go down. Like that is not at all. That is just a scratch on the surface
Hmm.
and not at all the full picture. And I think that we're seeing a lot more, especially primary care, endocrinologists. I've seen rheumatologists who have taken an interest now too. Like it's just, I think it affects so many aspects of women's health that if you're taking care of women, you should really try to at least educate yourself on the baseline.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know digital healthcare plays a part in closing that gap as well. I mean, Ally Health is
Absolutely.
obviously digital healthcare, and there's a need for that. There's a real need for that to reach individuals that don't have access to a physical location. The convenience alone is making it more accessible for a lot of people. So I just wanted to
It
point that out
absolutely
as
is.
well.
Yes, yes. Virtual care is I'm really hoping that we're able to continue as much virtual care access as we can. I think especially in our society we are a very mobile tech savvy society in
Mm.
general. So being able to get that care to people who maybe live 3-4 hours away from their
Right.
nearest provider, and that provider might not even be interested in or provide that type of care, right?
Mhm.
And then what happens if you have a visit scheduled 6 months out, and then if something happens and that visit has to be
That's
rescheduled?
right.
It's
Mhm.
another 3 to 4 months usually
Mhm.
for getting you in. So being able to offer that care has been, I think, really a game changer for women.
Yeah.
It also, I think, is getting people talking about it more
Mhm.
because, and it was something that my mom's generation, they never talked about it ever. And just having the conversation now that I am a menopause practitioner, I'm like, oh my gosh, you struggled so much.
Yeah.
You were in misery, and we, like, nobody knew. So
Mhm.
I think it's doing a really great service for patients as far as getting them the care they need, but then also getting the conversations out there.
And
Agree.
what would you say? Because I've talked to many women who are like, how can they ever help me virtually? Like, I need to be in person so they can see me and understand what's going on. How could a virtual care person help me during this time?
Well, I
I,
think that it's so much, your care is so much more than like coming in, taking a
Mhm.
full day off of work a lot of
Mhm.
times and waiting for an hour just to be seen for 10 minutes, right? Like,
Right.
I think it's there's so many aspects of menopause care and really overall healthcare that can be done digitally. Like, that's what I love about that aspect of care. Now, obviously, a pelvic exam is a very different story, but really, for the most part, so much of that care can be done virtually. That I think that practitioners are seeing that as well. Like, I think that they're realizing that you don't have to have your schedule full of people who are waiting in the waiting room,
Right.
and can still deliver excellent, high quality care.
Yeah. Yeah. My doctor is 10 minutes up the road, and I would much rather sit and have a visit like this versus 2 hours, right? Even 10
Yes,
minutes up the road, it could be a 2 hours out of my day. So
exactly.
lost productivity from work or
Mhm.
whatever else I might be doing to take the time to go in when it could be taken care of virtually like this. So
I
definitely a
Yes.
benefit.
I also see a lot of patients who have had poor experiences with the healthcare system. And so they're a little more shy to really engage in the healthcare system. So I
Yeah.
actually think doing virtual care and for them to be in their own environment that's really so much more
Mm.
comfortable for them can be very encouraging and very disarming towards the healthcare system. So I think it really just gets patients more engaged with their care as well.
yeah, that's great.
It's a great point. I'm wondering if we can ask you a question because we
Yeah.
have an answer, but we always like to ask others what their opinions are. When you think about a menopause friendly workplace or a menopause smart workplace, whatever we want to call it, what do you think that looks like in the next year, 2 years, 5 years? What does that mean to you?
I think that the education component is one of the most important things. So having your, so-called people at the top, understanding that if you have any female in your workplace, that it's a reality, and
Mhm.
it's not a taboo topic, but it is a guarantee
Mhm.
that someone in on your team is going to have an experience of some kind, whether that is to the extreme or pretty minimal.
Right.
But having that education for them in place is so important. And then really being able to incorporate that into how the workplace functions.
Mhm.
So, if you're in a meeting and you get just drenched in hot flushes, night sweats, not making it an environment where you feel like you have to just sit there and sweat through your clothes.
Mhm.
I think just being able to say, you know what, I need to take a second, and address this. And again, that kind of goes back to the education component and being
Mhm.
able to be proactive about that and say, oh my gosh, like, let's get you the help you need. Like, do you need to take a break? Like, and understanding that it's going to be much more productive of a day if we can actually address it than if somebody is taking like a full day or half day off work because they are embarrassed or need to go home. So
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, the real
Normalizing the
culture
conversation.
change, right?
For
yes,
sure.
yes, the
Yeah.
culture change is
Yeah.
huge.
Hmm.
Well, as we wrap things up, and we've talked about brain health and a little bit on heart health and bone health and all those things that are really important for lifestyle changes with all of the things that we've been talking about. What's one sort of shift that helps women move from sort of surviving and coping during this time to thriving at this stage in their life?
Oh, a mind shift. I mean, I think just generally that that we should be looking at this as a time of empowerment for um, prevention. So
Mm.
because it's not, I want it, I really am hoping that menopause care sort of shifts from having to treat things 6 months down the road, a year down the road, multiple years down the road to okay, let's have the conversation early so that you are able to have the tools at your fingertips to say, okay, I definitely think this is perimenopause. I don't think I'm crazy. I need to get help now, instead of sitting at that baseline, like low level of misery for however long that you do. So I think just the mindset of this is a time to really be empowered to prevent rather than to play catch up later.
I love that empowered prevention. And
Hmm.
we often talk about like, while you're just starting to get into this, go find your team,
Yeah.
go find your
Yes,
doctor, go find your
love that.
physical therapist, go find your cognitive behavioral therapist so that when you get the information and you start working with your doctor on this, that you've got a full team ready to help you with all those lifestyle changes that help you feel good rather than help
Hmm.
you feel bad.
Because you
Yes.
don't have to suffer.
You
You
don't have
don't
to
have to
suffer.
suffer. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't
And
know how many
I
times.
hear that still regularly where patients will
Yeah.
say, well, I just don't know if my symptoms are bad enough. And I'm
Yes,
like,
bad enough.
you're
Yes.
having a
Mhm.
symptom. Like
Right.
it's bad enough.
You don't, yeah. What level of suffering is okay,
Is
right? Or
okay.
not okay?
Exactly.
Where's the bar? Who set the bar? We don't have
Yes.
to suffer. Yeah.
And I think those in generations below Gen X are gonna even bust this out even
Yeah,
further to be
absolutely.
like,
Yes.
this is BS. I mean,
Yes.
my grandmother and my mother suffered through this. We
Hmm.
don't need to do this to live a full and happy and healthy and active life if you want to, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I
That's
think
why
I
we
hear
do
it
what we do.
regularly.
Yeah.
Yes. I hear it regularly. Patients say, I can't believe I waited so long.
I know.
Right.
I'm one of
I think
those.
sometimes we don't even realize how bad we feel
Yeah.
until we don't. And then, it's hindsight. We're like, oh my goodness, I really did feel miserable for
Yes.
that long. And I could have, right? I could have felt better all of this time. My daughter has a list. She's 22. She has a list of all of her blood work that she needs at certain ages and when
I
you're going to
love
start your
that.
vaginal estrogen and when you don't have to suffer. But that's why we get up and do what we do every day.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
and thank you for doing the same. We ask our guests the same question before we end, and we didn't prep you for this, so take a minute if you need to. But I'm wondering what the best piece of advice you've ever received has been.
Oh, best piece of advice I've ever received. Um, I think it would probably be take others' advice into consideration, but still follow your gut,
Mm,
even if that goes against the advice of
mm,
what everyone is giving you, because you're going to get so much advice from, and sometimes unsolicited, from so many people. But you know your
mm.
body, you know what's in your heart. And so I think that's really been the way that I've functioned for a lot of my life and a lot of my professional choices as well. It can be very scary to make changes. And especially if you have people telling you advice that it's the wrong decision.
Mm-hmm.
But I've followed my gut and stuck to my integrity and that has, I think, really served me well.
It's
I love
great
that.
advice.
Because when you don't follow your gut is going to keep bugging you until you do
Yes.
follow it. So you may as well just follow it right away.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
We know our bodies best, right?
Yep.
We do.
Yes.
We do. We
Exactly.
know our bodies best, and it's such a powerful note to end on. So, thank you for that advice, for passing that along, for being with us today, for your knowledge, for your expertise. And listeners, until we meet again, go find joy in the journey.
Thank you, Dr. Hahn.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for having me.
Bye-bye.